So in every exam for the microeconomics paper, the Unit 1 Markets in Action, you'll get a comment on elasticity question on, here we go, comment on elasticity question on elasticity. And it's one of the more challenging questions. It's an evaluative question. It's probably the start of, in the paper, where you start to see the students that are going to go and get the A's kind of separated out from students that are kind of C grade, D grade, E grade. U's not a grade though. Okay. So, oh, gone too far. Okay, so for each question that you have, I'll just skip ahead. Here we have a question. Using the information in the case study, comment on the price elasticity demand for unleaded petrol from March 2007 to March 2008. So there's two sections of this question. You have the first section, which is making some kind of deeper analysis and some comments really on the price elasticity of demand for unleaded petrol. And then the second part of the question is really sort of disagreeing with yourself and saying, yeah, but you know, hold on, wait a second, you know, these figures, oh, you know, there could be other things. So I'm just going to do the second part first, and then we'll go back to answering, you know, how you'd get those first analysis marks. So the reason I'm kind of jumping ahead to the second part is because this is relevant for any type of elasticity, PED, YED, XED, PES. But first of all, the data that you're usually presented with in the exam are estimates, because when I've spoken about this with my class, you know, it's all very nice experimenting with the price, but as a business, you know, you might be a bit scared of doing that, because you might put off customers if you experiment too much. So, you know, the figures that you probably get are estimates, and so therefore they might not be reliable, they might not be accurate. Also, when you're looking at YD things, the business doesn't actually control people's incomes. So although with PES, PED, probably XED as well, if you're selling both of those products that have a relationship to each other, the business has some sort of control over the price, they can alter it themselves. But with YED, the business doesn't have control over the average income in the economy. So although it's interesting, they can only sort of react to that information rather than sort of influence it. And also that ceteris paribus phrase, that Latin phrase about other things remaining equal. You know, in a science experiment, you alter something and you observe what happens when you alter it. So if this was a science experiment, we're altering the price, we're altering the income, we're observing what happens with quantity demanded or quantity supplied. But actually, when you're in an actual economy, there's lots of things changing all of the time, and you cannot just simply isolate the change in the quantity demanded or the quantity supplied and say, well, that is due to the change in price or the change in the income, because there might be other factors going on. There might be a very negative news story or a very positive news story that has changed the quantity demanded or quantity supplied, or there might be kind of government regulations that's come in that's changed the quantity supplied. So, you know, other things can affect these figures. So that's, you know, any elasticity question that you get, if you put things like this down for the second part of the comment on section, then you can get the marks. There's a phone ringing. Okay, phone answered, and I'm back. Okay, so now we're looking at what is the actual analysis part of the comment on question. And this is really, really important, because although you can get lots of easy marks from doing the things in the previous slide, saying the data estimates and all those types of things, you will not get any of those marks unless you do the analysis beforehand. So comment on the price elasticity of demand for unleaded petrol from March 2007 to March 2008. So it tells you what lines this is from, but I've just copied in the lines. So an approximate 15% increase in price and a 21% fall in daily sales. So I know it's 21% divided by 15%. This is PED, so it would come out as a negative because we've got a positive divided by a negative, but it doesn't really matter because it's PED, it should always come out as a negative. So the figure I get for that is 1.4. Okay, so some marks for calculation, but what does that figure mean? So 1.4 means that the price elasticity of demand for unleaded petrol from these dates this year was 1.4, meaning it's elastic. The quantity demanded is elastic to a change in price. Okay, so we've got a little bit of kind of comment, a little bit of analysis there, but you know, what else could we say about that that's very specific to this question? Well, we could say that that's a little bit unusual, because I would have thought petrol would be quite inelastic. People kind of see it as more of a necessity, and so I would have expected an inelastic figure. And there's you know, maybe in some areas there's kind of few substitutes for the product, few close substitutes. So in that sense, the fewer the substitutes, the more inelastic it becomes. So we've got a figure here that's, you know, quite elastic. So it's contrary to what you would maybe have expected. So that's a nice kind of analysis, some comment on there. We could also say that, you know, we're measuring it over the space of a year. So maybe if we'd have measured it March 2007 to April 2007, we'd have had a more inelastic figure. And the reason that we've got an elastic figure here is because it's more of a kind of a longer period, because remember, elasticity varies with the time period you're looking at, tends to be more elastic in the long run. And then after that, you can talk about, but you know, where has this data come from? It's an approximate figure. Is it really realistic? Maybe this fall in daily sales is not just due to the increase in price. Maybe it's due to other reasons. You know, if be unlikely, but if amazing public transport kind of opened up, I don't know where this British motorists, if you know, if there's been a strategy that year for improvements in public transport, then maybe that's what accounted for that fall in daily sales. So that ceteris paribus comes in there as well. Here we have a different comment on question from a few years ago. Here there's no calculation, but explain what these estimates mean, first part of the question, and then comment on their usefulness for dentists who carry out the implants. So here we've got the income elasticity of demand for private dental implants. So we've got 0.02, so very inelastic, very, very inelastic. We've got 0.4, so again, inelastic, and then 1.65 for the above average income earners. So elastic there. They are all positive figures, so they are all normal goods. So we've got I've stated what those mean, but explaining what they mean, we can say they're normal items, they're normal products. So when incomes increase, we would expect to see an increase in the quantity demanded, and when incomes decrease, we'd expect to see a decrease in the quantity demanded for these products. These two, low income earners and above average income earners, are inelastic figures, so they are insensitive to a change. The quantity demanded, is insensitive to a change in income, but low income earners are more insensitive to a change in income than the average income earners, and above average income earners are very sensitive to a change in income because they're elastic. Okay, so what does it mean for their kind of usefulness? Well, it means that when incomes are increasing, this above average income earners, these people here are going to be the ones that are demanding proportionally more of the product. So maybe if you've got a time when incomes are increasing, so you've got a boom period in your economy, you might want to segment your market and aim your advertising at this type of segment, the above average income earners, because those are the ones you're going to gain more demand from. And I imagine, I mean, they are a bit, some of my students look at these and go, these are a bit weird, like, because surely these people here see this as like a luxury and these people here see this as a necessity. So why would low income earners see, you know, dental implants, private dental implants as a necessity? And my best theory on this is that actually they see it as a necessity because maybe the people here that are even though they're low income earners and they're willing to spend the money on something that's probably actually quite expensive treatment, you know, they really desperately need it. These people really see it as a necessity, whereas these people here, it's more of kind of maybe like a vanity thing, like, oh, I've got a bit more money, what should I do? And I'm not saying that as a judgment, because I have actually had my teeth whitened. I got a bonus from work once, and I had my teeth whitened, and they look amazing, just to let you know. But so we've done the comment on the usefulness for dentists, but then you've got the other side of the comment on. So they are just estimates. The data might be unreliable. You've got other factors that could influence these numbers here. You can't just isolate them. And when you're trying to work out these numbers and say that it's a change in income that's kind of caused these changes. But also, as well, when we're looking at YED figures, it's actually quite difficult to gather information on YED. Because income, especially in Britain, it's quite a private subject, and people are not always readily willing to talk about how much they earn, or how much their spending patterns would be if they earn more or they earn less. So it's a sensitive subject. You might not get very reliable data. And also for the dentists, well, it's all very interesting, but they can't control the income of these earners here. So it's not like kind of PED in terms of, well, you're in control of the price. It's interesting for them. They can react to it, but they don't have direct control over those figures. All right then, so that is looking at comments on questions. You're always going to get them in an OCR exam, so make sure you practice. The best thing to do is look at those past papers. But remember, you've got to have that other side of the story. That's why I've put Stretch Armstrong on here. He's been stretched a little bit too much. So, you know, data, their estimates, ceteris paribus.